everyone. Welcome back to the Natural State of Wrestling podcast. My name is Emmy Camacho, and today we're joined by someone with the last name as me, Emmy
Same
Camacho.
thing.
Hey, Emmy, thank you for making the time to be here with us today.
No, yeah, thank you for having me.
And even though both of our last names is Camacho, we're not technically related, but I
Not
mean,
technically.
a Camacho's a Camacho, right? So I think we're
Yeah.
all family at the end
Yeah.
with Angel, Onyx, and Sarek. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to just kind of go start at the beginning and talk about like what are some things that inspired you to become a pro wrestler. I know that it hasn't been that long since you finished your training, right?
Yeah.
You've been making such a big impact. I want to talk about just like your origin story. How did that start for you? That journey of wanting to become a pro wrestler.
Yeah. I always like to say it's like a happy accident because it kind of just happened by accident. I was just like sitting on the couch with a family member and she was just like scrolling through the channels and we just like happened to come across wrestling and like WWE, that kind of thing. And she was like, "Oh, I remember when I used to watch this as a kid or whatever." And I was like, I think because the first person I ever saw wrestle was CM Punk. And I don't remember who it was against, but like just his whole attitude and the way he was, like, I was like, man, like I want to be this dude. He was just like, just said whatever he wanted. And just the whole thing, like, there wasn't like a specific match or anything. It was just all of what wrestling was in general that I was like, I want to be a part of that. And that's kind of how that happened. And then women came out later and I was like, hey, women do this too. So I was like, I'm going to do it. And that's pretty much all it was.
So that would have been like what, like 2013,
Oh,
2012?
you do the math. I was like 6 years old. So you do the math because I don't want to.
So is CM Punk like, would you say like CM Punk is your dude? Like how people have like favorite wrestlers and stuff or people that
Yeah.
like inspire them. Would you say CM Punk is that for you?
I I would, just because he was the first person that kind of was the whole introduction to me of what wrestling was. But I think as I kind of got more into the history of it, I would say Shawn Michaels was really the one who was like even to this day is like my all-time favorite. But also like the women, like AJ Lee was one of the first women that I ever saw. And she was like skipping down the ring and she was like the worst. She was a heel at that time. So it was just really cool to see. But I would say those three are probably some of the main ones that kind of inspired me this whole time, even to this day, really.
Have you had a chance to read AJ Lee's biography? I just finished it like a few months ago.
Oh, really? Yeah, I went to a book signing actually, when she was like traveling around like signing. I think it was in Austin or San Antonio. But yeah, I got to read it. I love the book. I still have it to this day. I have like highlighted quotes in there that I like go back and read from time to time where it's like, yes. But yeah, I read it right when it was like coming out.
So you had the chance to meet her then. How old were you then whenever you got the chance to meet her?
Ooh, I still have the picture. I was like really ugly and like you can tell I was just I was really young. I mean, like I'm old now, but I think I would say maybe like
Jesus.
15, 14 or 15, I would say. So it was a while back.
You got one of those like Roxanne pictures, like the ones where she's
Yeah.
like young. And then
Yeah.
and then when you make it big, they'll use that picture, and be like, oh look,
I
Emmy.
hope they don't. I hope they don't use that picture. It's a horrible
They could
picture.
put one of those like how like people put like smiley faces sometimes on their face when they don't like they
Oh
want
yeah.
to see like the picture, the body and stuff, but they'll put like the
Yeah.
smiley face. They might be able to do that for you, even
Like
though I'm
I
pretty
still
sure they can't.
remember like meeting her. I still remember that. I was just so awkward because I mean it was like this was like my idol. So like I went and I was like trying to talk to her. She tried to shake my hand. I was like, my hands are sweaty. I'm sorry. And she's like, oh, it's okay. And it was just like really weird. I almost forgot my book. I was like walking away from her, but it's just like that moment when you meet someone you've looked up to for so long. It's like you're just kind of like just there.
Because I think doesn't I believe I saw a picture of Roxanne whenever I'm not sure if she's meeting someone, but she's crying. It's like
Yeah.
a picture when she's like 9 or 10, and now it's like all over. It's all over now. WWE puts all those pictures out,
Yeah.
just crazy, right? Um,
Yeah.
one
But that
of
was me. Like I was crying when I met her. It's just, and I was like 15. I was already like grown at that point to be like crying like that, but it is what it is.
Hey, when you meet your idols, I was also a big like CM Punk fan. That's
Yeah.
for me. It's
Yeah.
it's always been Eddie Guerrero and CM Punk.
Yeah,
Those
Eddie Guerrero too.
those two were my guys. I haven't gotten to meet CM Punk. I did have, the pleasure of meeting Chavo
Oh,
Guerrero.
wow.
He was super cool, super nice.
Wow.
One time we went to an event here and he was performing that night, and then they were like, after the show all the wrestlers are going to go to the bar if you want to go chill and hang out,
Oh,
so
wow.
being a big wrestling fan, I was like, of course. So I showed
Yeah.
up, like, we get a drink, me and my friend, and we sit down, and the first wrestler to come in is Chavo. He comes in through like the back door and stuff, and he comes
Wow.
directly to our table and shakes our hand, and he was like the nicest guy ever. I was like, at that time, I was like, what is this? This is like, is this a dream?
Yeah.
The fact,
I would have totally freaked out. That's insane.
yeah. Now I have the pleasure of having somewhat of a relationship with like Thunder Rosa, who I look up to a
Mhm.
lot as well. One of the interviews that I saw that you did, you mentioned that one of your goals is to like continue working in Mission Pro Wrestling.
Mhm.
Um, I saw one of their shows in Tulsa about 2 years ago, I believe, and it's amazing. It's so
Yeah.
awesome just seeing like
Yeah.
women be the centerpiece of the show, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you had the chance? I think at that time of the interview, you had wrestled, I think maybe once for Mission Pro. Have you gotten more opportunities there?
Yeah, I've kind of, because one of the goals, I pretty much said it like right after my first time at Mission Pro. I was like, I want to be a regular. And I think I said it in a promo too. And I've been booked on every single show after that, like this far. So it's really, really cool. Because that was like a big goal of mine. And I felt like it happened really fast too. Like I mean, because that doesn't usually happen, like you really have to work your way up to a promotion like Mission Pro. So like I'm just really, really grateful that, because Brian had reached out to me and was like, hey, if you want to come work down here, if you're available. And I was like, of course, like that's everybody's goal is to like get to Mission Pro. So I'm really grateful that I'm kind of like stapled there and getting to be almost like a regular now, which is really, really cool.
And you've gone to wrestle Maddie, right?
Oh, not at Mission Pro, but I have at PPW. And I still say it, like, even though she's rude, like really rude, like it's still probably one of the most fun matches I've had in a while.
Yeah, I got to meet her at the Mission Pro Wrestling show in Tulsa about, I think it was almost 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. And yeah, she can be rude. She's kind of cool too. And
Yeah,
and she's
here's
really
her
talented.
moment.
She was our
Yeah.
first ever guest on the show. So I'm gonna
Oh,
say
really?
some nice things about her because she's our first guest. No, but she's cool. And
Yeah.
I also saw something that you kind of look up to Jasmine Allure, right?
Yeah. No, yeah. I think because there was, I mean, I was familiar with a lot of before I got into wrestling and like the whole indie scene, I was familiar with the people who were already out there as far as the women. And because it was like Kylie Ray, Roxy, Jasmine Allure.
Mhm.
But yeah, like they have been kind of the ones where I'd followed. So being able to kind of like be friends with Jasmine now and like it's still one of those like little mark moments at times just because like you see these people and then you like get to kind of
Mhm.
work with them in the same locker room. I haven't had a match with Jasmine yet. I'm hoping in the future, but yeah, she's definitely one who I look up to for sure.
And do you manage to like keep relationships with them? Like, do you communicate with them ever so often? Just to
Yeah,
stuff.
like usually if whatever's going on, like she'll reach out and she'll be like, "Hey, congratulations on this," or like that kind of thing. Just like being supportive of one another, which is also really cool, like having that relationship. But yeah, just always like supporting her or like her supporting me and whatever we're doing out there. But that kind of thing. But yeah.
And how do you kind of like, I guess, after you started watching, wrestling, after you were scrolling through the channels, or the other person was scrolling through the channels, how do you take that step to be like, let me look for some pro wrestling company on Google and reach out to them to see how I can start training? Is that kind of how it went for you, or what? How
It
did it
was
start for you?
I felt like I was so young that I didn't even realize like the technical stuff that I had to do to be a professional wrestler. Cause like you're so young at that age, you're like 6. You're just like, I mean, I'm just gonna do it. That's all you say is like, I'm gonna do that. And like from the first time I saw it, I like told everybody, I was like, I'm gonna do that. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. It's not until like you kind of reach that age where
Yeah.
it's like now you're able to start training. And I know for me, of course, Booker T's school is always like one that everybody wants to be in. So that's kind of like always the first option for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, So I did a fantasy camp and I really, really liked it. Like, I just had so much fun doing that. And I remember talking to Booker. He probably doesn't remember because again, I was like, you probably couldn't even recognize me back then. I had like these ugly like bangs. Anyway, that's not the point. But anyway, he talked to me and he was like, yeah, because at that point I think they were letting people train at 15 with like parental permission. And I was like begging my parents. I was like, I know we don't live here, but like I'll transfer schools. Like I don't really like my school anyway. Like I'll just come down here and like start training. But they were not for that. So I started looking for schools around like the Fort Worth area. And that's when DFW All Pro came out. So I was like messaging him. I was like, hey, I'm like 15. I want to start training. And he was like, you're not old enough to start training. So like message back when you're like 18. And I didn't listen. So I was 16. I was like, what about now? He was like, no. So 17. And 17, it got kind of like, he was like, okay, you can come in for a tryout. I was like, cool. And so I did the tryout. It was brutal, tough. But I made it through and I liked it. And I decided to sign up. And that's kind of how that process went. Funny story about that actually, because or I think I was 16 actually. Oh, I'm lying to you. Yeah, I was 16 when I came in for the tryout, which I was not supposed to be actually. I was supposed to be 17. But I came in with my dad because I couldn't even drive yet. And I remember some of the wrestlers there, they thought like my dad was the one trying it out. And he was like, oh no, it's this one. And it's like me, like all like scrawny and little. But that happened twice actually. But yeah, that's how that whole thing went.
So it sounds like your parents have been supportive from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, they are supportive, but like my mom was a little bit hesitant about it just because it was scary for her. Like even to this day, like when she watches the matches, she'll still like close her eyes a little bit. So it's kind of like hard for her to let me do certain stuff, just not in a bad way. It's just she gets nervous a lot. So that was kind of like, are you sure you want to do this? Because there's other things to do. And I remember people telling me that they were like, you can do gymnastics. I was like, I don't want to do gymnastics. Like that's not what I want to do. But I probably should have now because it would have helped in wrestling. But
Right. Well, you
I was
can do
thinking at the time.
you can technically do gymnastics from the top rope, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Just
That's true.
but so then are there concerns kind of more just about you hurting yourself? Is that the
Yeah,
big
pretty much. Yeah, that's the big thing. Like they're like, you're really little, and anything could happen because anything can happen. Whether you're small or big or whatever. It's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, that was just the main concern. Just getting hurt. That just scares them.
and you've been actively wrestling now, like after training for how long has it been now?
I would say 7.5 to maybe 8 months. I'll reach my 1 year in June, I believe. I don't quote me on that, but around that is when I'll hit my 1 year, like out here doing this. But I want to say like 7 to 8 months, I would say.
Okay, when I was doing some research, the time there was not like I don't think online I could find anything where it was like, oh, she started at this time. But when I was
Yeah,
looking at the dates and stuff, it kind of looked like 8 months to me.
yeah, because like I was training for around like a year and a half. So I still remember like all the details. Like I started training October 5th of 2020. I had my tryout September 19th. Um, but yeah, October 5th was when I started, and I didn't graduate until June 10th of I want to say 2022
Okay.
or 21. I don't really know. I can't remember that part, but it was like that's kind of the timeline of that. But yeah.
And at that point when you started training, you were 16 then.
Yes, I was 16.
So now you're about to turn 18 or you're 18 already?
I just turned 19.
You just turned 19. Where's
So it
my
was like
where am I
I
messing
I
numbers up?
started yeah, I started at 16, but like I was literally gonna turn like 17 like a couple weeks later. So it was like I basically started at 17, but to be technical, it was 16, but
So just even if you've only been active for 8 years, I kind of feel like you've been making a name for yourself down south.
Mhm.
Um, how do you feel like do you feel like you being accepted into the wrestling world like you should be? Is it more difficult for you for a specific reason? I kind of want your perspective on that, how it's been so far in these 8 months that you've been active.
Yeah, I feel like it's barely just now where I'm starting to kind of like get more of this like name for myself because kind of when you're first starting, it's like people don't really know who you are. So it's like you come in and because I mean, just being completely honest, I don't want to lie to y'all, but just like I would come in sometimes and depending on who I'm working with, it'd just be like, oh, kind of hi, whatever, blah blah. We'll do this, this, and this, and it's like short thing, and then it's like goodbye. I think it's not until you really start getting other places and people start kind of recognizing your face and your name, where it's like, oh yeah, that's Emmy Camacho or this and this. And it's like just kind of doing all you can to get out there. But I think now I'm starting to feel a little bit more like a part of everything. Because when you're new, it's kind of hard because you don't really know anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I also feel, what you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. I do feel like it's helped, to have like La Familia Camacho with you, with Angel, Zarek, Onyx, uh,
Yeah.
to have those people alongside you. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like it's a not obviously like it's a plus, right?
Yeah.
To have that support, but
No, yeah.
like to be surrounded by them.
Yeah, like I can say for sure, like I think Angel has been someone who has helped me more than anyone.
Mm.
Like for sure I would say that he's constantly reaching out, and um just being able to like go to places with them, like of course not everywhere, but the places that I do get to go, he's like always making sure that I'm like being taken care of, and that really helps, and it means a lot to me because sometimes being super young in the business, it's like, oh, she's young, maybe we can pull this with her, pull that, but he's kind of there to make sure that doesn't happen. So it definitely kind of takes that burden off my back to have to, because I know I'm going to be like okay when they're there.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of what how that.
Feel you. So in these 8 months that you've been active in pro wrestling, I know it takes a while sometimes for people to develop, who they are as a pro wrestler. Who would you say you are today, like in regards to Emmy Camacho, the character, the personality? Who is Emmy Camacho? Like how would you describe Emmy if you had to describe? And I'm talking about the person. I'm not talking about you as like outside of wrestling, about like the personality in the
Yeah,
wrestling world.
I feel like it depends on the day, really, just depending on like if people are being irritating or not. Because I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like like I kind of have this whole like sweet look going on in the outside, but people really don't realize how feisty I am. Because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that until I'm in the ring and they're like, whoa, we didn't really expect that. And that happens a lot. And I mean, Angel and like Onyx and Zarek, they can tell you, and even Ocho if you talk to him. But it's like there's I would definitely say that it's kind of like a double side. I would say, you really don't know what you're going to get. Just depends on the day. Like I said, um, usually I always get a little bit more frustrated with like the bigger opponents. Like you're probably going to see more of a feisty Emmy Camacho during that because it's always like, oh, she's small, we're going to beat her up, blah blah. Then I have to come in like all hot because. So if that means like hitting someone in the back from behind, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. You know what I mean? But
I,
yeah, I mean,
I
I
was
would
one of
say,
those people that was surprised, by you having that kind of like vibe when you get out, when you start heading out to the ring. Because I saw you in the back and you were chill, and then I saw and then and then I saw you in the front. I was like, well, that's a whole other person out there.
that's
Uh,
how it goes sometimes. I mean,
and I
but yeah,
one
I
of
feel like
the
that's a lot of people. A lot of people never.
never expected.
Yeah,
One of the things that I saw on social media, and I think I commented on it on Instagram, was that the move that you did where you asked that person to throw you out of the ring. Can you talk about that? Like what crosses your mind when because it's dangerous. They can maybe not catch you if they throw you out. It's like you're risking your body out there. But when you
yeah.
kind of like that would actually be good content. Were you thinking about that when you did it?
I feel like it's more of the fact that it's like I just want to win so bad because I don't really care about anything else other than winning. So it's like as long as I like win. So in the moment, the adrenaline's going, and it's like, I mean, you're on a whole nother level. Like you're not even thinking straight once you're like in there and doing everything. It's just like, oh, you see a moment where they're both outside, and it's like, I don't know, just chunk me out there, man. You know what I mean? And it helps, because like I like to slap people around too. It's pretty fun. So it's like if he doesn't do it, then hey, I get a free slap right now. So it's like it's a win-win for me, even if I get out there and get hurt. I mean, it's fun.
Hey, and it
But
does.
it makes for good content too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen.
Makes for good
I don't think
content.
I've ever seen anybody do that. Like, because you kind of
Oh, really?
were telling the person like, "Yo, like, throw me,"
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody. I mean, I've seen people obviously be thrown by their tag team partners in a different way, but you were getting mad at this dude. You were like, no, like, listen to me, just throw me.
Just as I say.
Yeah, and it looked great. So
Yeah.
thumbs up on that move. Um, so you started wrestling over here in Arkansas. I'm not sure if I think you wrestled not only in Springdale, but you wrestled somewhere else in Arkansas, right? What other
Yeah.
what other city?
Um,
I forgot what city it
I
was.
me too. I know it was probably for BIW because I think that's the
Yeah,
only other one that I've done down there. So it's one of those shows. Um, but yeah. Oh, I think it was Fountain Hill, I
probably,
believe.
probably. But
Was it?
it was
Don't
for
quote me on that, but it might
is
have
it
been.
Bayou Wrestling? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, yeah, that's the one. They
And
I
it's,
know they have it in like, a bunch of different places. Like they're like in Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. So they get around, you know.
what do you so far like when it comes to Arkansas crowds? What have you thought about it?
So I've learned that they're more of an old school kind of wrestling crowd, which I enjoy because I don't have to do a bunch of like flippy stuff or anything like that to like get these people attention. It's a lot more than just the wrestling too. Just like kind of being a character out there. Being who you are, and they kind of just they love that. So I really like working like crowds like that, just like old school crowds, rather than the whole more indie kind of scene, where it's like, oh, do a bunch of backflips, senton, springboard type of things. But yeah, so that's kind of what I learned about that crowd. I really love performing over down there because it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of fun for me.
I felt like you were a fan favorite in Springdale. I'm not sure if you
Oh,
felt.
really?
I'm not sure if
I
I did. I was on the like I came out for your match and I sat like on the edge and it sounded like people were rooting for you. Maybe I left
really,
maybe I left at the part where you like started getting angry or something and people turned against you. But when you came out I was like, oh, that's people want her to win. And Springdale specifically, which the crowds will continue to grow in Springdale, but there's
yeah,
a big Latino population in Springdale, like
hmm,
it's huge. So the goal
yeah,
for us is to try to get more brown people out there to show
yeah,
up
for
and to
sure.
know that there's wrestling here. A lot of people still
Hmm.
don't. And I feel with you and with the rest of the Camachos and the other folks, I feel like we're gonna help create, like a strong base, a consistent base,
Yeah,
and um,
yeah,
and I'm excited to see that grow. I think it's gonna be really cool.
yeah.
Um,
I think so too. I think even like with Diamond State specifically, like even it's only been like their first couple of shows, and I think just for their first couple of shows, like there's already been like a good crowd for because that's like rare, people will start up and it's like it's hard to get promotions like up and running. And so like I don't know, I think that one's gonna do really, really well. I'm excited to see how that promotion is gonna grow too. And like just grateful to be a part of it, like all of us, like Camacho's, me, everybody. So it's really, really cool.
and I think your next match is a four-way, right? Can you talk a little bit about
Yes.
that, of what you know so
Yeah.
far about it?
So I don't know much about it. I've heard about the championship. That's what I've heard, which obviously I'm going to win. It's really
Great.
that simple. Uh like there is nobody else. It's me. But yeah, I believe so it's gonna be Kayla Kate, um, Olivia, Olivia.
Yes.
And there's the other girl I have not wrestled. I know we follow each other on social media, but I haven't got to see much of her or anything like that. So I'm gonna have to like keep my eye closer on that one because I wrestled Kate, I wrestled Olivia. So this one's new. I don't know what she can do. And so I'll probably end up having to take her out first, but don't tell anybody. Maybe we cut that part. Don't I just revealed my plan, cut that out. Yeah, because I
So
don't know what she's about. So I have her.
have you been in a four-way before?
Yeah, I have. I think yeah, at DFW it was against Erica Torres, who's like one of the strongest people on the planet.
I've
Mia
seen
Friday and uh Maya. And yeah, so I've been in a fatal four way. I think I've been in another one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I've got a little experience in that.
Well, I'm excited to see that. I think the women wrestling here in Diamond State is one of the most exciting things to see. And I'm,
Yeah.
proud of Alexander, who does a good job at like making it a priority to showcase
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, and you can tell because he'll even like he'll get the women's ref, he'll get like the announcers, like it's like when it's the women's division, it's the women, which I think is really cool that he goes that extra mile to do that. So, because not a lot of places do that.
definitely, definitely. And I being in the back in the I guess locker room in Diamond State, everybody's just so helpful. And I think that's pretty cool. I This is the first time that I'm ever involved with a pro wrestling company like I am, and
Yeah,
it's been such like a good experience. Everybody that comes
yeah,
in, they're just so nice, and hopefully it remains that
yeah.
way, because it's good vibes. But in regards to like your goals, Emmy, what are your goals in regards to? I'm guessing you want to wrestle for a national organization, eventually, national wrestling company. Have you created some sort of like timeline of when you want to accomplish that, or are you just kind of, just putting in those reps right now, just trying to get more experience at the moment, not thinking about it that much?
Yeah, I feel like I mean, of course that's always the goal, is to like make a career out of this where you can live off of wrestling. And that's always going to be the goal. Because there's really nothing else that I like to do other than this. Um, but I would say right now I'm just kind of trying to do the best that I can. Like whether that's in the gym or in the ring or whatever it is, just trying to constantly get better. Um, and even branching out to go to other training places, to kind of get different types of training instead of just sticking in one place like DFW All Pro. Um, but that's kind of the goal is just getting better. And I just feel like when it happens, it will happen. Like I don't have to force anything. I don't have to be like, it needs to happen at this exact date. I'm just kind of letting that flow. I think timing is everything and everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. So you
Yeah.
don't, and it takes more stress off of my shoulders than being like, I have to do things like and make it happen like by this time because that's just stressful to me. So I just kind of let things flow is my philosophy on that.
And I think for from like a spectator or someone from the outside looking into like what you've been able to accomplish so far, and other people, like for example, like I think about you, I think about like Gino Medina, I think about Maddie, who are folks who I feel like are just destined to eventually work for a big company because y'all are
Yeah.
doing like everything right. Y'all are, not only do y'all show up and wrestle like you're supposed to, but y'all like promote your shows on social media,
Yeah.
just really do everything you're supposed to do
Yeah.
to be successful. And I feel like it's just a matter of time. And I told this to Maddie and to Gino too. I was like, just a matter of time. I just feel like what you said about continuing to do everything, and eventually people will see you,
Yeah.
uh, and hopefully you get invited to a tryout somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was really, really cool. And
and
that's the thing, just like always trying to stay ready if it does happen, like just making sure that you're ready. And that's kind of what I'm doing because I think for a while, I can like genuinely admit I could have done a lot more than what I was doing. And I think right now I'm to the place where I'm like actually doing everything that I need to be doing and like to get better. So I just gonna try and keep doing that.
I've noticed that you've kept away from Twitter. Is there a reason for that?
Yes.
Is it
I
the
just hear so
negativity?
I just hear so many bad things about Twitter and I don't want to be associated with it. I know like people keep telling me like, "Hey, you need to get a Twitter or when are you going to get a Twitter?" And it's like I'm not against it. I'm not saying like never. I'm just saying probably not right now cuz if there is a lot of negativity, like I can't handle that right now. I don't want to be a part of it. So I
I
think
feel it.
yeah, it's already hard enough being on like Instagram and Facebook because like I didn't have it before wrestling. So just like having to operate those two is already enough for me. So I'm like, ugh. Twitter, I don't even know what I would do from there.
And then eventually you'll have a TikTok, and yeah, it's hard to manage everything. I think when I was trying to reach out to do this interview, I tried Twitter first, and
Oh,
I
really?
looked up your name, and a bunch of people had like not tagged you, but have had posted videos of you wrestling or all these different
Oh,
things. It
really?
had your name on it, but it kind of looked like if the profile had been deactivated or something. So I was like, maybe she
Oh,
just deactivated her Twitter, but you never had one apparently.
yeah, I never had one.
Okay.
And yeah, I tried TikTok and I downloaded it. I had it for 2 days and then I deleted it. I was like, I don't know what to do on here. So I was like, I'm just getting rid of it. So yeah.
You waste a lot of time on TikTok, so it's probably best if you stay away from it.
Yeah, probably.
So just some quick fire questions for you, Emmy. I want to see if any of these answers have changed within like the past few months. Anybody that you can think of that comes to mind that you haven't wrestled that you want to wrestle?
I mean, of course, the main one, there's Roxanne Perez. That's been the main one. Of course, Jasmine Allure, I haven't gotten to be in the ring with her yet. I think those are really my top two for sure. But Roxanne has been one since like before she was in the WWE, like I just being on the indies, but it was like right when I like graduated and got out there, she was like shoom and like just like was gone. So I was like, oh, I just have to meet you there, I guess.
Wasn't it like I'm not sure if you thought this too, but I thought it like when I would see Roxanne, formerly known as Roxy, wrestling all over like Texas and stuff, like you can just kind of see it that she was eventually gonna get to WWE. Like it
No,
just
yeah, for sure.
you were
Yeah.
just like,
You,
why is
you
she still
just
not
know.
there? And then
Yeah.
when it happened, it wasn't even much of a surprise. It was like I
Yeah.
we knew it was gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like for you, talking about being young, being a young Latina, that do you feel like Roxanne kind of created Roxanne and AJ Lee kind of created like that blueprint of like joining these big companies at a young age as a young Latina? Do you think about that?
No, I really do. That's why it's like Roxanne has been such a huge inspiration, not just for me, but for pretty much almost any women's wrestler that's on the independent scene right now. And I think for that reason, it's just always really cool to see that kind of thing, her being so young. And it's just like, I don't know, it gives everybody else so much hope that like, oh, we all can do it too. And you just put in that work because she did, she worked really, really hard. And that's one thing. Like I think she started when she was 13.
Yeah.
Um, and it's crazy because I remember there was like a Tyson Kids seminar, and it said on the flyer there was no like previous training needed. So I wasn't trained. So I was like, okay, I will come in here. But then everybody was already trained. So I was like, what? So I was like really bad. But I met her. That was the first time I met her. I think she was probably like 16 and I was like 13 maybe. And she was so nice. Like, and it's like, of course, everybody's going to love this girl because like she's so supportive of everyone. And, she takes the time to like reach out and talk to you and like kind of give you that encouragement. So it's like she deserves everything and more. Like seriously, like she's the best.
That's all I hear. I just hear so
Yeah.
much positive feedback about Roxanne from everybody I interact with, which is super
Mhm.
cool. And it tells you about, the kind of individual she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so far, what has been your favorite venue to perform at?
Ooh.
You don't have to say the Imperial Event Center in Springdale. It's okay. You can no one's gonna get hurt. You can say what you really feel.
I feel like I'm gonna say something and then I'm gonna be like, oh wait, no, maybe I didn't think about this one because I always do that. So I'm
How about
trying
it
to
doesn't have
think.
to be your favorite one? It can be like one that you enjoy.
I always like places that have that like the lights are turned down and it's like really dark except for like the ring. So I know like because Diamond State has that. So I really like that. Also Sabotage has been when I wrestled there, I really, really liked it because it was like dark and
Mm.
oh where was it? Oh, Inspire too. It's in Austin. It's like outside, but it has like a tarp, but it has like lights around it and it looks really nice. Like I always like that kind of thing. So probably those three have been ones that I really like to wrestle at.
And any companies that you can think of besides the big ones that you would like to wrestle for?
If I get the chance to like be a part of like all of them, that'd be really cool. Like whether it's Impact, Ring of Honor, even, like I would say I want to do anything and everything that I can be a part of. I want to. It's not like just based down to one, because I think it'd be cool to just kind of get in everywhere. Of course I want to be signed to like a staple, somewhere, but there's really nothing specific. I think as long as I can make a career out of this and perform in front of the fans, like that's all that matters to me, really.
Gotcha. So 2023, I think we're about to enter April. Uh,
Yeah.
what are like some goals that you have for yourself this year? If you've thought about it, if you kind of sat down and been like, you know what, by the end of this year, I want to at least do this, or win more titles. Obviously, is a very simple one to think of, right? But is there anything else that you can think of that you're like, man, I really want to get this done by the end of this year?
I would say it would probably be more in my fitness journey than anything. Just trying to, because eating for me is one of the hardest things ever. So like trying to eat more and like put on some weight and muscle is definitely my main goal for this year. Like, of course, get better in the ring, but I think overall, just the fitness journey is what I'm really trying to focus on the most this year. So definitely by the end of the year, I want to be able to add a little bit more pounds, you know?
I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I'm trying to start, like ending these interviews with, is asking the guests what you do to take care of your mental health.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Good for you for asking that. That's a really good question. I think definitely for me, I would say this is that I think whenever you're getting so busy out there on the scene, sometimes it kind of will take you away from yourself and from your family and the people that care about you. And I know for me, that's happened like, because I have a little nephew and there's been birthday parties that I've missed, you know, where I don't get to see him like turn like one or two or whatever it may be. And, you know, you kind of get that guilt and it can get in your head. So I think just kind of prioritizing things that are important in your personal life as well, because I think that will really, for me anyway, that's just a personal thing for me. um so of course working hard in your career in wrestling, but also prioritizing the people that are there for you and that care for you and support you.
Yeah.
um Kind of giving that back, because if not, you're going to feel that guilt and it's going to like mess with you and mess with kind of what you're doing here in the wrestling thing. So just prioritizing the things that are important, and you know, listening to yourself. Like if you're feeling a certain type of way, don't push yourself when, you know, just listen to your body and that kind of thing. And if you are feeling like that, I'll say this. I am working with the Modern Wellness Center, and they are a huge help in that kind of stuff, like just taking care of our bodies and our mental health. So if anyone is feeling like that, definitely recommend the Modern Wellness Center. But yeah, I would definitely say that.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for making the time for this interview, Emmy. I
Yeah.
appreciate it so much. And for those that are listening, they can catch you in Arkansas on April 30th
Yes.
in that fatal four-way.
When I win the title.
Hey, let's put that energy out there. Let's put that
Right.
let's put it into existence. So people can catch you on April 30th at the Imperial Event Center in Springdale. Make sure you get your tickets early. I believe tickets are already available. So if you go, which you can go to the Facebook, Instagram of Diamond State and get tickets there. But once again, Emmy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. And for everybody listening, that was episode 10 of the Natural State of Wrestling podcast. My name is Irvin, and this is Emmy signing off.